My name is Miss Katarina T, and welcome back to my channel. Hello, Editing Cat here. So I decided to add timestamps to this video to make it a little easier for you to find what it is you're looking for. You can see on the screen here everything that I cover in this video. Feel free to use the timestamps to skip around. So if you missed my last video, I'm back after quite a bit of a hiatus, and one thing that I said to myself when starting this channel up again is I'm going to make videos based on the work I'm doing in my illustration practice, not make things for my YouTube channel, if that makes any sense. So, this video was supposed to be about my digital art process. I was working on a portfolio piece. It was going great. I was super proud of it. And then a couple weeks ago, my computer decided it didn't want to turn on anymore. So that was great. After a week of troubleshooting, the only thing we really could do was wipe my computer and reinstall Windows. The only folder that didn't back up was my pictures. I don't know if you know anything about illustration, but it's pictures. So all my working files were in my pictures folder, and they were gone. So after a bit of wallowing in abject misery, I decided to put on my big girl pants and figure out how to salvage this piece. Luckily, I wasn't left with nothing because I had sent certain stages of the illustration to my friends on Discord, and they were all saved there still. So I had something. This is technically a side point to the storyline of this illustration almost killing me, but right after my computer was fixed, I got so sick. Like, yeah, the universe really did not want me to finish this illustration or film this video, but we're here and we're gonna get it done. Anyways, let's get into it. The stage I was at before my computer exploded was I was done line art and I had already moved on to color. Like, flats were in. I was in the process of shading the characters and lost all of that. So what I did have was this sketch that I had sent to friends for feedback. I also had this, which was the final line art with gray tones, just to separate the foreground from the background. I had also lowered the opacity of the line art in the back to make it more readable. So I had two options. If I wanted the illustration to be in full color, like was my original plan, yes, I could have used this, but I have never been one of those artists that can convert grayscale shading into color without the colors looking really bad. I could go back to the sketch and redo the line art. That was an option. Or I take this and I tried to turn it into a grayscale piece. I want to have more black and white illustrations in my portfolio anyways. Another tangent, I'm so sorry. I need to keep adding these details because I need you to understand how, like, on a razor's edge I was to crashing out. OBS decided upon re-downloading that it did not want to record my screen anymore. So we're this far into the video. Let me tell you what this illustration is actually about. You want to hear a joke? It's a really good joke. How can you tell if someone is Greek? They will tell you. So I'm Greek. I've been wanting to make some illustrations kind of based on my childhood growing up in the Greek community for my children's book portfolio, right? Like, there's a lot of cultural experiences I had growing up between Greek dance, church services, Greek school, camp. So this piece is kind of drawing on my memories being a myrophora. If you don't know what a myrophora is, in the Greek Orthodox Easter services, young girls have a role that they can play in the service. Misfortunes all dress in matching white robes with ribbons and hair ribbons. At my church, we had all the girls put their hair in high ponytails, so everyone matched. You can have matching candles. It's very cute. So I wanted to show these moments of all the girls, in the basement, helping each other get ready, helping each other do their hair, talking, not being so refined. Now, let's get on to the technical parts of how I salvaged this merged, flattened illustration. So as I said, I had made the line art in the background of the piece a lighter opacity, which would prove to be a little annoying as I got into using blending modes, but I kind of had to be like, it's a feature, not a bug. That's just what it's going to be. I used a combination of multiply layers and overlay layers just to try and get the values to what I needed them to be. So I had a layer of gray, right? For the parts that I needed to be darker, I typically used a multiply layer. And if I wanted to make it lighter, I would use an overlay layer. There were other blending modes that I tried, but it would mess with the look of the line art too much, and it didn't look right. Later on, I did start using overlay layers also to make colors darker, but then there was kind of a limit to how dark it could go. So I used multiply layers in those cases as well. There was a kind of balance I needed to strike here where I needed the front three girls to stand out enough from the background, two girls in the table, so that you could tell that there was depth there. How I did that was I made sure that the darkest darks to the lightest lights, that range was a lot bigger in the foreground. So the chair is like dark. Their hair is a dark brown. They're not brown. They're gray. They were supposed to be brown. It was supposed to be brown hair. It's fine. And then in the background, I basically condensed that value range. So the darkest darks were only really a mid-tone of gray. To tell you the truth, this was just a lot of trial and error, trying to find the right values, basically guessing what value would turn up when I painted something on the screen. Once I got my values in and I could see that the piece had come together in black and white, I had figured it out. From here on out, things did get a lot easier because now I could just sample the values that I already put down to do shading and detail work, right? The same way that I used value grouping to separate the foreground elements from the background elements, I do something similar here where you can see I spend a lot more time adding shading and definition to the three girls in the front, and I leave the elements in the back a lot more minimally shaded. Not nothing, because then it wouldn't match the style from one to the other, but like I'm not going in and doing the detail work that I'm doing in the foreground. So at this point, I'm going to pause. At this point, I stopped and I sent another screenshot to my friends for feedback. I got some really great feedback from one of my friends, Mick, which I will go over in just a second. But first, I'd like to share with you all a dramatic rendition of what I'm going to call the great bread potato debate. Thank you. Oh, also, can you tell what she's eating in black and white? LMAO. Bread. I also thought bread, but I could see someone saying potato. That looks like bread. Also, only a psychopath would hold a potato like that. I don't know what to call it, but the scratch thing in the middle signals bread to me. The way the bite mark looks, the scratch in the middle, the perfectly round shape, it's bread. It's clearly bread. Counterpoint. What fucking psychopath would hold a baked potato like that? Also, where's the grainy internal? The internals would spill out. The sheer audacity someone would need to have to hold a potato like that is unreal. It's bread. It's not unreasonable to just hold a potato like that, frankly. LMFAO. I'll kill you. No one is holding a potato like that. Also, you were talking about a baked potato with a cut in the middle. Who would let the potato get cold enough to hold it like that while getting their hair done? If a potato is cold enough to eat, it's cold enough to hold. I know you're doing this for the bit. I know you woke up this morning and remembered how to breathe. I know you know that's a piece of bread. What is my life if not one increasingly long bit? On cam during D&D, someone right now mistook bread in someone's hand for a baked potato. LMFAO. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that because I certainly did. Let's get into what the feedback was. Mick suggested adding some more shading to the back table, specifically to kind of differentiate the top flat part with the dangly tablecloth a bit. Mick also suggested to make one of the planes of the wall behind them a different color to kind of tell it's a corner. This would be a good suggestion. However, I do want this to function more as a spot illustration, so I didn't want there to be a background tone. He also suggested to make the shadows inside the sleeves of the Miraflores darker, which looks a lot better. So I went back to Clip Studio and I made those changes. So since I don't have the recording of a lot of the initial ideation part of this illustration, let me talk to you a little bit about where my head was at in terms of the composition. Composition is one of those nebulous things that unfortunately really just does get easier the more you practice it. But let me point out to you a few things I did in this piece. So I'm going to stick it over here again. Very basic composition principle, the rule of thirds. Basically, if you take your canvas and you split it into thirds, where the intersections are generally good places for you to put your focal point. I knew I wanted the tallest Miraflora in the front of the composition to be the focal point. So you can see I put her head in one of those intersections. How else did I make this the focal point? Because it just putting something in a certain spot does not guarantee it's going to be a focal point. One of the easiest things you can do is make the area that you want the audience's eye to go to first an area of high contrast. So you can see I made her hair the darkest out of the three, so that would contrast the most with the white background, and therefore your eye goes to it first. It's also the positioning. She is the tallest one in the foreground, so your eye goes to her first before the other two that are shorter or sitting. So once I've established where I want my focal point to be, aka the first spot the audience's eye goes to, I want to think about how am I leading the viewer's eye through the piece, through the different elements that I've added into the illustration. The three girls in the front kind of form a triangle. So from the top, the viewer can either choose to look down to the one who's sitting or to the right to the one who's tying her sash. On the right side of the illustration, I've set up something of a loop where going from the focal point, the head of that girl, if you go to the right, your eye goes through to the shorter girl's head, down her arm, following the sash, back up, following the center girl's hand, up, 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 and then from there, you're back at the head. So you can see there's a nice like rhythmic loop going on there. And then once you're back at the focal point, once you start to look on the other side of the piece, let's say to the left, your eye tends to go to the ponytail first, through to her face. Faces are generally very eye-catching, so those are always points of focus in an illustration. So from the tallest girl, lead-in is the ponytail to her face, then you kind of follow the rhythm of her arms now. She has one arm crossed around this way, your eye goes down, and then back up because she's holding the bread up to that, which is another secondary focal point. Because she kind of has her hand up like this, there's like a little bit of a point. That leads right into my little background element there of the two younger girls on their phone on the table with all the snacks. This is kind of where your eye rests. One thing I think I could have worked on in this piece is closing the loop back off from the background elements back to the foreground. Because of how I have the chair positioned of the girl on the right in the back, that chair is a pretty rectangular block, kind of stopping your eye there, which is okay because at that point, hopefully you've gandered your way through the illustration anyways. But I think I could have positioned that differently and maybe used her ponytail flick to lead the audience's eye back into the foreground. Notes for next time. The last thing I want to go over today are the little details I put in this illustration to make it feel more authentic and really bring it to life. So all these girls are wearing their crosses, and I did make one of them have their cross flipped around so the chain was showing. The snacks on the table are examples of some of the things we would actually be eating when we were fasting. So there are nachos, one girl's eating some bread. There's also a bowl of a lentil soup called faques that very few kids actually like, but we are often made to eat. There's also plastic water bottles, and you can see one of the label is ripped. Classic way to differentiate whose is whose. There are also slight differences in all these girls' robes because oftentimes girls would bring their own robes from home. Some had ties to close off the neckline, some had hem stitching, and some came in 2 layers, as you can see from this girl in the back. With this piece, I wanted to capture some of my childhood memories of girlhood, showing these girls in a less picture-perfect, performance-ready state, how they are when they're just amongst themselves, regular kids, sitting around talking, eating, laughing, having a good time. Needless to say, I am quite proud of myself for sticking it out. I'm glad I didn't abandon this illustration because I came very close several times to doing so. If you've made it this far, thank you so, so much for watching. It really means the world to me. I'm trying to bring this channel back. So, of course, any suggestions you have for what you want to see from me, what of my old videos did you like the best? What do you want me to bring back? I would love to hear it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, and I will see you soon for the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye. Mwah.